that are we over the royal wedding, the hype, not so much the royal wedding, but certainly the hype associated with the royal wedding. I mean, in certain sections of the media, it just seems as if it's out of control. One of the things that maybe hasn't been discussed with any further, anyway, is the notion of a prenup. Now, if you happen to have ever been involved with a wedding, and it might be you, that was determined by a prenuptial agreement, love to hear from you. 922-11882. Should we be more considerate going into a relationship, going into a wedding, going into a marriage, the notion of a prenup? 922-11882. Wilson Luna is the founder of Your Family, Your Money. He's written some really good books too. Fantastic real money advice for divorce. There you go. Hello, Wilson.
G'day, Tony. How are you, mate?
It's a great notion, isn't it? I mean, a little piece we saw here, 52,498 good reasons to consider the prenup. How many reasons?
Yeah, it's a lot of reasons, isn't it? Yeah, that's generally the amount of people. That's the amount of people that got divorced last year. So the number's high, and actually, it's a decade high number. Funnily enough, it went up by around about 5 to 7% in that particular year. So there's good reasons why to think about it anyway. 52,498. How popular? Not popular is probably the wrong word. But how often are we seeing prenups of people going into weddings these days in Australia? You know, I think it's becoming, here in Australia, we call it binding financial agreements.
Oh, yeah,
it's pretty much the same thing. And I think what's happening is, I think it's horses for courses, and I think the primary reason why you would probably consider a prenup is, for starters, if you're going into a relationship and you're bringing into it a substantial amount of assets. B, if you're going into a relationship and there might be kids from a previous relationship and you want to make sure that they're sort of taken care of and the next relationship doesn't sort of affect it. C, a lot of people are deciding that they want to go down that path only because if things don't work out, and statistics sort of show that in some cases they don't work out, they don't want to be fighting over property settlement or what belongs to who at the end of it. They want to sort of have an agreement in place that says, look, if this and this happens, this is the outcome, let's get on with our lives.
Seen it some years ago, and gee, it can be terribly divisive to the family when it's not stitched up, particularly as you say, you're going into that second marriage, older couple, older children, and they're not too keen about the new woman that's on the scene. Gee, you can get nasty.
Yeah, look, I suppose the biggest argument against it is the whole thing about, we're taking the emotional aspect of the wedding out of it. And, my personal view, or what I see from an experience point of view in terms of when people come post the divorce and they're looking how to fix themselves up financially, I look at it from the point of view of, it's all about, keeping the emotion in it by introducing a prenup that takes out of the equation all the money situation side of it, so you can walk into it safe, that you're both going into it for the right reasons, especially if you've both got, children, or like we were talking before, especially if you've got a lot of assets behind you.
How do you raise it? You're into either a first relationship or maybe a second relationship where you're a lot older and you may have a quid behind you and your partner, in fact, also, hopefully, has a quid and all those considerations. How do you sort of say, look, let's get married, but first sign this?
I think it's some very careful and intelligent conversations. I suppose it depends how we approach it. We approach it from the point of view of very matter-of-fact perspective. I think it's okay. And I've got clients of mine that, come from a reasonable amount of wealth, and when they've gone into their second relationship, they've said, look, I hope this lasts forever, but if for whatever reason it doesn't, I just want to make sure that everybody, ends up and we don't end up going through this battle through courts or this battle of assets, etc. I want to be there, and my intentions are obviously to be there in the long term. But if something was to go wrong, I just want to make sure we all walk out with our fair share. And, that might be a way to approach it. Different people do it differently, I suppose, but the main thing is that you do have that conversation if that's something of importance to you. Some people decide and they say, look, you know what? I want to roll the dice, and if it doesn't work out, well, I want to give them half. That's fine as well.
We're talking to Wilson Luna, founder of Your Family, Your Money. Do you think any consideration would be, with this big wedding that the whole world seems to be talking about on Friday, do you think William has said, look, Catherine, love you lots, but just have a look at this. I'm the top man here. I'm the prince.
If I was a betting man, I'd probably say, he probably wouldn't even say it. I'd probably say his solicitors would have had a chat down there, to be honest.
Do you really think so?
Family. Yeah, you would think that there'd be a lot of legal agreements in that situation. Yeah, especially from the royalty side of things, where it's so, it's so paper-based in terms of so bureaucratic in so many ways that it's a matter of, there'd be that much red tape. There would have to be a lot of stuff going through there. Now, I'm not saying there'd be a prenup per se, but there'd have to be a lot of conversations there of what would happen and if this happened or that happened, particularly from the point of view of, how his father and Princess Di ended up getting divorced as well. So there'd be a lot of considerations there, I think, taking place.
And I suppose when you say it like that then, Wilson, they would be foolish not to have some of this sort of stuff at least, considered or documented.
Yeah. Look, I think more and more it's becoming a situation where people are getting involved in these type of agreements only to save themselves a heartache at the end. Whilst traditionally we used to say, look, what kind of love is it if we're bringing up a contract at the beginning of the relationship. Whilst now, particularly if you've been through a divorce or you've been through a bad situation, you're looking at it from a different perspective, saying, look, I really want to be there. That's why I'm getting married in the first place. But if for whatever reason it doesn't work out, I don't want my kids to suffer for it, or, I don't want to be going through the courts just fighting over, the spoons or who owns the chair or who owns the flower pot. I want to sort of have a clean break and say, look, this is what we've decided upon, that you'll inherit, and this is what I've decided I'd take away. So I think it takes away a lot of the confusion out of it.
I suppose you look at that 52,498 wedding couples that went into it, how many of them really would have thought that it wasn't going to last?
Yeah, not many.
It's amazing.
Go into it with the right intentions.
Yeah, of course. Wilson, great to talk to you. If anybody wants to know more, they can have a look at your website or pick up any of the tapes and all the other wonderful things you're doing. Real Money Advice for Divorce, a valuable, valuable tool. Good to talk to you, Wilson.
Thank you, Tony.
See ya. Bye. Wilson Luna, founder of Your Family, Your Money. How many of you did have, or if you were thinking about doing it again, or in fact you have done it again, you've got married again, maybe for the second, perhaps even the third time, did you at least have the conversation about the financial setup, how it was going to work out in the event that it didn't last? What did you do? Would you do it? 922 11882. This is